I never thought I would end up living in my son's house at 63 years old. My name is Margaret Hayes, and for most of my life, I was the kind of woman who handled everything on her own. I raised two boys as a single mother after my husband died when they were just 8 and 10 years old. I worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table, to make sure they had clean clothes, to pay for their school supplies. I scrubbed floors in office buildings at night, waitressed during the day, and took in sewing on weekends. My hands were always rough, always working, but I was proud. I never asked anyone for help, never complained. My boys grew up strong, smart, and kind. At least I thought they both did. My older son, Daniel, moved across the country for work. We talk on the phone every Sunday, and he sends money sometimes, even though I tell him not to. My younger son, Thomas, stayed close. He became an accountant, married a woman named Veronica 5 years ago, and bought a beautiful house in the suburbs. When I started having trouble with my health last year, high blood pressure and some heart issues, Thomas insisted I move in with them. I did not want to. I valued my independence more than anything. But the medical bills were piling up, and my little apartment was becoming too much to manage. So I packed my life into boxes and moved into their guest room. Veronica smiled when I arrived. She hugged me and said all the right things. "Welcome, Mom. We are so happy to have you here. This is your home now." But I could see something in her eyes, something cold behind the warmth. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was just uncomfortable with the change. I had always been the one taking care of others, and now I was the one being taken care of. It felt wrong, like wearing someone else's clothes. The first few weeks were okay. I tried to stay out of the way. I kept my room clean, helped with small things around the house. I would wash dishes when Veronica was not looking, fold laundry, water the plants. I wanted to contribute, to show that I was not a burden. But Veronica did not seem to appreciate it. One morning I was washing the breakfast dishes when she walked into the kitchen. She stood there watching me for a moment, her arms crossed. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Just cleaning up," I said. I wanted to help. "I have a dishwasher," she said, her voice tight. "You do not need to do that." "Oh, I do not mind," I said. "I have always washed dishes by hand." She walked over and took the sponge from my hand. "Please, just let me handle it. You are a guest here." A guest. The word stung more than it should have. I nodded and left the kitchen, feeling small. I went to my room and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the boxes I had not yet unpacked. I told myself it would get better, that we just needed time to adjust to each other, but it did not get better. Over the next few months, Veronica's attitude toward me changed. She stopped smiling when I entered a room. She would sigh heavily whenever I spoke. When Thomas was home, she was pleasant, almost sweet. But the moment he left for work, her mask dropped. She would make comments under her breath, little jabs that felt like needles. "You are always in the way. Can you not see I am busy? Do you have to be so loud?" I tried to talk to Thomas about it, but he did not see what I saw. "Mom, you are imagining things," he would say. "Veronica loves you. She is just stressed with work." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think I was being too sensitive, that my pride was making me see problems where there were none. So I stayed quiet. I made myself smaller, quieter, less present. I spent most of my time in my room, reading or watching television. I only came out for meals, and even then, I tried to be quick, to not take up too much space. Then, one afternoon, everything changed. It was a Tuesday, and Thomas was at work. I was in my room folding some clothes when Veronica burst through the door without knocking. She had an armful of my things, clothes I had washed and left in the laundry room to dry. She walked straight to the window and opened it. "What are you doing?" I asked, standing up. She did not answer. She started throwing my clothes out the window, one piece at a time. My favorite cardigan, the one Daniel had given me for my birthday. My old jeans, soft and comfortable. The blouse I wore to Thomas's wedding. I watched in shock as my belongings fluttered down to the yard below. "Stop it!" I shouted, rushing toward her. "What are you doing?" She turned to face me, her eyes blazing with anger. "I am sick of your stuff everywhere. You are a useless old hag who does nothing but take up space in my house. I am done pretending to be nice to you." The words hit me like a slap. I stood there, frozen, unable to speak. She threw the last of my clothes out the window and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. I sank onto the bed, my hands shaking. I felt humiliated, small, worthless. For a moment, I believed what she said. Maybe I was useless. Maybe I was just a burden. But then something inside me shifted. I thought about all the years I had worked, all the sacrifices I had made. I thought about the nights I stayed up sewing until my fingers bled. The mornings I woke up at 4 to clean office buildings before my boys woke up for school. I thought about the time I walked 5 miles in the snow to get to my waitressing shift because I could not afford bus fare. I had never been useless. I had never been weak. And I was not going to let this woman make me feel that way now. I stood up and walked to the window. I looked down at my clothes scattered across the lawn. Then I turned and looked around my room, at the life I had been trying to squeeze into this small space. I realized something then. I had been so focused on not being a burden that I had forgotten who I was. I had let Veronica's cruelty make me doubt myself, make me question my worth. But I was Margaret Hayes. I had survived worse than this. I went downstairs and walked outside. I picked up each piece of clothing, shook off the dirt, and folded them carefully. I carried them back to my room and packed them into my suitcase. Then I sat down and made a phone call. It was to my friend Linda, a woman I had worked with years ago at the diner. We had stayed in touch over the years, and she had always told me I was welcome at her place any time. "Linda," I said when she answered, "I need a favor." "Anything, honey. What is going on?" "I need a place to stay for a few days, just until I figure things out." "You come right over," she said without hesitation. "I will have the guest room ready." I hung up and called a taxi. I wrote a note for Thomas, telling him I needed some space and that I would call him soon. I did not mention what Veronica had done. I wanted to tell him in person, to see his face when I explained what his wife had said to me. But for now, I just needed to leave. When I arrived at Linda's house, she wrapped me in a hug and did not ask questions. She made me tea and let me sit in silence until I was ready to talk. When I finally told her what had happened, she was furious. "That woman has no idea who she is messing with," Linda said. "You are one of the strongest people I know. You are going to get through this, Margaret." I nodded, but I did not feel strong. I felt tired, defeated. I spent the next few days at Linda's, trying to figure out what to do next. I did not want to go back to Thomas's house, but I also did not want to give up on my relationship with my son. I called Daniel and told him what had happened. He was livid. "Mom, you should have told me sooner," he said. "I am coming out there. We are going to deal with this together." "No," I said. "I need to handle this myself." "Are you sure?" "I am sure." But I was not sure. I had no idea what I was going to do. I only knew that I could not let Veronica win. I could not let her cruelty define me. Those first nights at Linda's house were the hardest. I would lie awake in the darkness, replaying that moment over and over in my mind. The look of contempt on Veronica's face. The sound of my clothes hitting the ground outside. The word that kept echoing in my head. Useless. 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 I had not felt this lost since my husband died, since I had to figure out how to keep going when everything inside me wanted to give up. Linda would check on me throughout those days. She would bring me soup I could not eat, sit beside me in silence when I could not talk, hold my hand when the tears finally came. On the third night, she found me in the guest room, staring at my suitcase. "You know what I see when I look at you?" she asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. I shook my head. "I see the woman who used to come into the diner at 5 in the morning, already exhausted from cleaning offices all night, and still managed to smile at every customer. I see the woman who once gave her lunch to a homeless man, even though she barely had enough money to feed her own kids. I see the woman who sewed a prom dress for my daughter when I could not afford one. You are not useless, Margaret. You never have been." Her words broke something open inside me. I started crying, really crying, for the first time since I had left Thomas's house. I cried for all the years I had worked myself to the bone. I cried for the loneliness I had felt in that house, trying to make myself invisible. I cried for the girl I had been, full of dreams, before life had beaten so much out of me. And I cried because somewhere along the way, I had started believing that my worth was tied to what I could do for others, to how useful I could be. Linda held me while I sobbed, and when I finally stopped, I felt lighter somehow. Emptier, but lighter. I do not know how to do this, I told her. I do not know how to stand up for myself without feeling selfish. Standing up for yourself is not selfish, she said firmly. It is necessary. You have spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. When are you going to take care of you? I did not have an answer for that. I had never thought about it that way. Taking care of myself had always felt like a luxury I could not afford. There was always someone who needed me more, always someone else's needs that came first. Over the next few days, I started to think differently. Linda had a small library in her house, and I found myself drawn to books I never would have picked up before. Books about self-worth, about setting boundaries, about finding your voice. I read about women who had survived worse than me, who had rebuilt their lives from nothing. I read about the importance of self-respect, about how you teach people how to treat you. One book talked about something called learned helplessness, about how people can become conditioned to accept mistreatment because they believe they have no other choice. I thought about how I had shrunk myself in Veronica's house, how I had accepted her cruelty without fighting back. I thought about how I had blamed myself, wondered what I had done wrong, tried to be smaller and quieter and less of a burden. I had learned to be helpless in my own life. But I was not helpless. I had never been helpless. I had just forgotten how to fight. Linda came home one afternoon to find me sitting in the living room, surrounded by papers. I had started making a list of everything I had accomplished in my life. Every job I had worked, every challenge I had overcome, every moment I had chosen to keep going when giving up would have been easier. The list was longer than I expected. By the time I finished, I had filled 3 pages. "What is all this?" Linda asked, picking up one of the sheets. "Evidence," I said. "Evidence that I am not who Veronica said I was." She smiled. "You are building your case. I am reminding myself of the truth," I said. That night, I called Daniel again. This time I did not just tell him what had happened. I told him how it had made me feel, how I had been struggling with my self-worth, how I was working to rebuild my sense of self. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Mom," he finally said, "I wish you could see yourself the way I see you. You are the strongest person I know. You raised me and Thomas on your own. You worked jobs that would have broken most people. You never complained, never gave up, never asked for anything. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how much strength that takes?" "I do not feel strong," I admitted. "Strength is not about never being afraid or never doubting yourself," he said. "It is about feeling all of those things and still choosing to keep going. That is what you have always done. That is who you are." His words settled into my chest, warm and solid. I realized then that I had been looking for permission to value myself, waiting for someone else to tell me I was worthy. But worth does not come from external validation. It comes from knowing, deep in your bones, that you matter, that your life has value, that you deserve respect and kindness and love, not because of what you can do for others, but simply because you exist. I spent the next few days thinking about what I wanted to say to Thomas, how I wanted to approach the conversation. I knew he would be devastated by what I told him, that he would feel guilty for not protecting me. But I also knew that he needed to hear the truth. He needed to understand what had been happening in his own home, under his own roof. Linda helped me practice. She played Thomas while I explained what had happened, and she asked the questions she thought he might ask. It was harder than I expected. Every time I said the words out loud, they hurt. But I kept going. I kept practicing until I could tell the story without my voice breaking, until I could say what needed to be said with clarity and strength. On the morning I was supposed to meet Thomas, I woke up early. I took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away the last of my self-doubt. I dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made me feel confident, that reminded me of who I was. I looked at myself in the mirror, at the woman staring back at me. She looked tired, but she also looked determined. She looked like someone who had decided to fight. "I am not useless," I said to my reflection. "I am not a burden. I am Margaret Hayes, and I deserve better than this." Linda drove me to her house, even though I told her I could take a taxi. She wanted to be there, to support me. When we arrived, she squeezed my hand. "You have got this," she said. I know, I replied. And for the first time in weeks, I believed it. A few days later, Thomas called. His voice was strained, worried. Mom, where are you? I got your note. What happened? I need to talk to you, I said. Can you meet me at Linda's? Of course. I will be there in an hour. When Thomas arrived, he looked exhausted. He hugged me tightly, and I could feel his confusion, his concern. We sat down in Linda's living room, and I told him everything. I told him about the months of coldness, the comments, the way Veronica treated me when he was not around. I told him about the clothes, about what she had called me. His face went pale. I cannot believe this. I had no idea. I know, I said. She hid it well. I am so sorry, Mom. I should have noticed. I should have protected you. It is not your fault, I said. But I cannot go back there. Not unless things change. They will change, he said firmly. I promise you they will change. I wanted to believe him, but I was not sure if things could change. The damage had been done, and I did not know if it could be repaired. Thomas sat forward, his hands clasped together, his knuckles white. Tell me everything, he said. From the beginning. Do not leave anything out. So I did. I told him about the first morning when she took the sponge from my hand, about the way she called me a guest in what was supposed to be my home. I told him about the comments, the sighs, the way she would look at me like I was something unpleasant she had to tolerate. I told him about the nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering what I had done wrong, trying to figure out how to be less of a burden. I told him about the afternoon she threw my clothes out the window, about the words she had screamed at me. With each detail, I watched my son's face change. The color drained from his cheeks. His jaw clenched. His eyes filled with tears that he tried to blink away. When I finished, he stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. His shoulders were shaking. Thomas, I said softly. I failed you, he said, his voice breaking. I brought you into my home and I failed to protect you. I promised myself when Dad died that I would always take care of you, that I would never let anyone hurt you. And I let this happen under my own roof. You did not know, I said. He turned around, and I could see the tears streaming down his face. But I should have known. I should have paid more attention. I should have seen the signs. How many times did you try to tell me something was wrong? I thought about all the times I had started to say something, only to stop myself. I thought about the moments I had hinted at the tension, only to have him brush it off. But I also knew that Veronica had been careful. She had played her part well when he was around. She had been the devoted wife, the caring daughter-in-law. She had saved her cruelty for when we were alone. She was very good at hiding it, I said. And I was very good at making excuses for her. You should not have had to, he said. You should have been able to live in peace, to feel safe and welcome in my home. Instead, you were being tormented, and I was completely oblivious. Linda, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. Thomas, your mother did not tell you this to make you feel guilty. She told you because she needs you to understand what has been happening. She needs you to take action. He nodded, wiping his eyes. I am going to fix this, Mom. I do not know how yet, but I am going to make this right. I do not want you to blow up your marriage over this, I said carefully. I just need you to understand that I cannot live in a place where I am treated with such disrespect. If my marriage cannot survive me standing up for my mother, then it is not a marriage worth saving, he said. You are my family. You are my priority. And if Veronica cannot understand that, cannot treat you with the respect you deserve, then she and I are going to have a serious problem. His words brought fresh tears to my eyes, but these were different tears. They were tears of relief, of gratitude, of love. I had been so afraid that he would choose her over me, that he would make excuses for her behavior or try to convince me I was overreacting. But he was not doing any of those things. He was standing up for me. He was choosing me. We spent the next hour talking. Thomas asked more questions. Wanted to know every detail of what had happened over the past months. I told him about the nights I had stayed in my room, afraid to come out. I told him about the meals I had skipped because I did not want to face her. I told him about the way she had made me feel small and worthless and invisible. I should have been there more, he said. I have been working so much, trying to provide for the family. But what is the point of providing if I am not present? If I do not even know what is happening in my own home? You work hard because you are a good man, I said. Because you want to take care of the people you love. But you need to know that taking care of someone means more than just providing financially. It means being there emotionally. It means paying attention. It means making sure they feel safe and valued. He nodded slowly. I understand. And I am going to do better. I promise you, Mom, I am going to do better. Before he left, he hugged me tightly. I love you, he said. And I am so sorry this happened to you. You deserve so much better. I love you too, I said. And I know you are going to make this right. That night, Thomas confronted Veronica. I was not there, but he told me about it later. He said she denied everything at first, said I was making it up. But when he pressed her, when he told her he had talked to Linda and heard the whole story, she broke down. She admitted what she had done, but she tried to justify it. She said she felt overwhelmed, that having me in the house was stressful, that she did not sign up to take care of an elderly woman. My mother is not some burden you are stuck with, Thomas told her. She is my mother. She sacrificed everything to raise me. And you treated her like garbage. According to Thomas, Veronica cried. She said she was sorry, that she did not mean it. But Thomas did not back down. He told her that if she wanted to stay married to him, she needed to make things right. He said she needed to apologize to me sincerely, and that she needed to treat me with respect from now on. If she could not do that, then he would move out and take me with him. He told her that he had already spoken to a real estate agent, that he was prepared to buy a house just for the two of us if that was what it took. He said he loved her, but he loved his mother more. And if she could not accept that, if she could not treat me with basic human decency, then their marriage was over. Veronica was shocked. She had not expected him to take such a strong stance. She had thought she could smooth things over, that she could charm her way out of it like she had done so many times before. But Thomas was done with the games. He was done with the excuses. He wanted real change, or he wanted out. He gave her 3 days to think about it, 3 days to decide if she was willing to do the work, to make amends, to become the person he thought he had married. And then he left. He came back to Linda's house and slept on the couch, refusing to go home until Veronica made a decision. Those 3 days were tense. Thomas was quieter than usual, more withdrawn. I could see him wrestling with his emotions, trying to figure out what he would do if Veronica chose not to change. He loved her, that was clear, but he also loved me, and he was not willing to sacrifice one relationship for the other. He wanted us all to find a way to coexist, to build something real and honest and healthy. On the 3rd day, Veronica called. She asked if she could come to Linda's house to talk to me. Thomas looked at me, waiting for my answer. It is up to you, Mom, he said. You do not have to see her if you are not ready. I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to say no, to make her suffer the way she had made me suffer. But another part of me knew that if there was any chance of moving forward, of rebuilding, we needed to have this conversation. So I nodded. Tell her she can come, I said. I was surprised when Thomas told me this. I had not expected him to stand up to her so forcefully. I had always worried that he loved her more than he loved me, that I would always come second in his life. But hearing that he had defended me, that he had put his foot down, it meant more to me than I could express. A few days later, Veronica came to Linda's house. She stood on the porch looking small and nervous. Linda let her in, but she did not leave the room. She sat in the corner, her arms crossed, watching Veronica like a hawk. Margaret, Veronica said, her voice shaking. I owe you an apology. What I did was unforgivable. I was cruel and disrespectful, and you did not deserve any of it. I sat in silence, waiting for her to continue. I have been struggling, she said. Work has been stressful, and I felt like I was losing control of my life. But that is no excuse for how I treated you. You have been nothing but kind, and I threw that back in your face. I am sorry. I looked at her, trying to gauge if her apology was genuine. I could see tears in her eyes, but I had seen her cry before. I knew she was good at putting on a performance. Why did you say those things? I asked. Why did you call me useless? She looked down at her hands. Because I felt useless, she said quietly. I have been trying so hard to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter-in-law, and I felt like I was failing. Having you in the house reminded me of everything I am not. You are so strong, so capable. You raised 2 kids on your own, worked multiple jobs, and you never complained. I look at you and I feel inadequate. I was taken aback by her honesty. I had not expected that. So, you tore me down to make yourself feel better? I asked. Yes, she said. And I know how terrible that is. I know I hurt you, and I am so sorry. I sat back in my chair, letting her words sink in. Part of me wanted to stay angry, to hold on to the hurt. But another part of me understood. I had spent so much of my life trying to prove I was not weak, trying to show the world I could handle anything. I knew what it felt like to feel inadequate, to feel like you were not enough. Veronica, I said slowly, I appreciate your apology. I appreciate your honesty. But I need you to understand something. Your feelings of inadequacy do not give you the right to mistreat someone else. Your insecurities do not justify cruelty. And I will not be your emotional punching bag ever again. She nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I understand. And I do not expect you to forgive me right away. I do not even know if I deserve forgiveness. But I want to try. I want to do better. What does that look like? I asked. What does trying look like for you? She took a deep breath. I have already scheduled an appointment with a therapist. Thomas suggested it, but I realized I need it. I need to figure out why I act the way I do, why I lash out when I feel threatened. And I want to work on myself, not just for you or for Thomas, but for me. That is a good start, I said. But I need more than therapy appointments. I need to see actual change in how you treat me. I need to feel safe in that house. I need to feel like I belong there. You do belong there, she said quickly. It is your home too. I was wrong to make you feel like a guest, like an intruder. You are family. And I should have treated you that way from the beginning. Linda, who had been silent up until now, spoke up. Veronica, I want you to understand something. Margaret is one of the kindest, strongest, most resilient women I have ever known. She has survived things that would have broken most people, and she is giving you a chance that many people would not give. Do not waste it. Veronica looked at Linda, then back at me. I will not, she said. I promise you, I will not waste this chance. I studied her face, looking for any sign of insincerity. But all I saw was a woman who was genuinely remorseful, genuinely afraid of losing her marriage, genuinely willing to do the work. It did not erase what she had done. It did not take away the pain. But it was a start. I appreciate your apology, I said finally. But I need more than words. I need to see that you mean it. I do, she said. I will do whatever it takes to make this right. I nodded. Then we will take it one day at a time. After Veronica left, Linda turned to me. Do you think she means it? I do not know, I admitted. I want to believe her. But trust is not rebuilt overnight. It is going to take time. Linda nodded. Just promise me you will not let her walk all over you again. Promise me you will stand up for yourself. I promise, I said. I am done making myself small for other people's comfort. The decision to move back into Thomas's house was not an easy one. I spent several more days at Linda's, thinking about what I wanted, what I needed, what I was willing to accept. Thomas came by every day, bringing me updates on Veronica's progress, assuring me that things would be different. He had made changes too. He had reduced his work hours so he could be home more. He had set up a schedule where he and I would have dinner alone at least twice a week, just to check in, to make sure I was okay. He was trying, and I could see how much it mattered to him. When I finally agreed to come back, it was with conditions. I told Thomas that I needed my own space, a room that was truly mine, where I could retreat when I needed privacy. I told him that I needed to be included in family decisions, that I needed to feel like my opinion mattered. And I told him that if Veronica ever spoke to me that way again, if she ever made me feel worthless or unwelcome, I would leave immediately and permanently. Thomas agreed to everything. He said he would make sure I felt safe, that I felt valued, that I felt like this was truly my home. And then he did something that surprised me. He sat down with both Veronica and me and created what he called a family agreement. It outlined how we would communicate with each other, how we would handle conflicts, how we would make sure everyone felt heard and respected. It felt a little formal, a little awkward, but it also felt necessary. We needed structure. We needed guidelines. We needed a way to navigate this new dynamic. When I moved back in, Veronica and Thomas had completely redone my room. They had painted the walls a soft blue, my favorite color. They had bought new furniture, including a comfortable reading chair by the window. They had hung photos of my boys when they were young, memories that made me smile. It was no longer just a guest room. It was my room, my space, my sanctuary. "This is beautiful," I said, tears in my eyes. "We wanted you to feel at home," Thomas said. "Because you are home." Veronica stood in the doorway, her hands clasped nervously. "If there is anything else you need, anything you want to change, just let me know." "Thank you," I said. "This means a lot." Over the next few weeks, Veronica made an effort. She apologized again, multiple times. She helped me unpack and organize my things. She asked my opinion on what to make for dinner, what movie to watch, what flowers to plant in the garden. She started including me in conversations, genuinely listening to what I had to say. She even asked me to teach her how to sew, something she said she had always wanted to learn. The first sewing lesson was awkward. We sat at the kitchen table, a basket of fabric between us, and I showed her how to thread a needle, how to make basic stitches. Her hands were clumsy at first, and she grew frustrated easily. "I am terrible at this," she said, pulling out a crooked line of stitches. "Everyone is terrible at first," I said. "The trick is to keep practicing, to be patient with yourself." She looked up at me. "Is that how you learned? Through patience and practice?" "That and necessity," I said. "When you cannot afford to buy new clothes, you learn to fix old ones. When your kids need something and you cannot afford to buy it, you figure out how to make it." "I never had to struggle like that," she admitted. "My parents gave me everything I needed. I went to good schools, had nice clothes, never wanted for anything. And then I married Thomas, who also works hard to provide. I have never had to worry about money, about survival. Sometimes I think that is why I am so bad at appreciating what I have." "It is not too late to learn," I said. "To learn gratitude, to learn empathy, to learn how to value people for who they are, not what they can do for you." She nodded, focusing back on her stitching. "I want to learn. I want to be better." "Then you will be," I said. It was not easy. There were moments when I could see the old Veronica, the one who resented me. But she caught herself, took a breath, and tried again. And slowly, things started to change between us. We were not friends, not yet. But we were trying. And that was enough for now. But healing is not linear, and there were setbacks. About a month after I moved back in, Veronica and I had our first real argument. It started over something small. I had rearranged some items in the kitchen to make them more accessible for me, and she snapped at me about changing things without asking. The moment the words left her mouth, I saw her face change. She realized what she had done, how she had spoken to me. But the damage was done. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, that old fear creeping back in. I walked out of the kitchen and went to my room. I sat on my bed, trying to calm my racing heart. A few minutes later, there was a soft knock on my door. "Margaret, can I come in?" I did not answer right away. I wanted to say no, to shut her out, to protect myself. But I also knew that if we were going to move forward, we had to learn to work through these moments. "Yes," I said finally. Veronica opened the door slowly. Her eyes were red, and I could tell she had been crying. "I am sorry," she said. "I did it again. I snapped at you over something that does not even matter." "You did," I said quietly. She sat down on the edge of my bed, keeping a respectful distance. "I thought I was doing better. I thought I had control over this, but then something triggers me, and I fall back into old patterns." "What triggered you?" I asked. She thought about it for a moment. "I think it was feeling like I was losing control of my own space. Which is ridiculous, because it is your space too. But I have this need to have everything a certain way, and when it changes, I panic." "That is something you need to work on with your therapist," I said. "But I also need you to understand that this is my home now. I need to be able to move freely in it, to make small changes that help me function better. I cannot walk on eggshells, wondering if I am going to upset you." "You are right," she said. and I promise I am working on it. My therapist says I have control issues rooted in anxiety. When I feel anxious, I try to control my environment, and when I cannot, I lash out. But knowing why I do it does not make it okay. I still hurt people. I still hurt you. I appreciate you telling me this, I said. But Veronica, I need you to understand something. I cannot be your therapy project. I cannot be the person you practice on while you figure out your issues. I need you to do that work before you interact with me, not during. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I understand. I will do better. And if I slip up again, please call me out on it. Do not let me get away with treating you poorly. I will, I said, because I am done being silent. I am done accepting behavior that hurts me. That argument, as painful as it was, actually helped us. It set a precedent for how we would handle conflict. We would address it immediately, honestly, and with the goal of understanding each other better. We would not let resentment build. We would not pretend everything was fine when it was not. Thomas noticed the change in our dynamic. One evening, after Veronica had gone to bed, he sat with me in the living room. I am proud of you, Mom, he said. For what? For standing up for yourself. For not letting her mistreat you, but also for giving her a chance to grow. That takes real strength. I did not have a choice, I said. I could not keep living the way I was. And I could not give up on our family without at least trying. Still, he said, a lot of people would have walked away. A lot of people would not have had the courage to confront this head on. I smiled. I learned from the best. Your father taught me that family is worth fighting for, even when it is hard, even when it hurts. Thomas reached over and squeezed my hand. He would be proud of you too. As the weeks turned into months, Veronica's progress became more evident. She was more consistent in her kindness, more genuine in her interactions. She started sharing things with me, opening up about her own struggles and fears. She told me about her difficult relationship with her own mother, about the pressure she had always felt to be perfect, about her fear of failure. One afternoon, as we were working on a sewing project together, she said something that surprised me. I envy you, you know. I looked up from my stitching. You envy me? Why? Because you know who you are, she said. You have this unshakable sense of self. You have been through hell and back, and you are still standing. I feel like I am constantly trying to figure out who I am, constantly trying to prove myself. I do not think anyone ever fully figures out who they are, I said. We are always growing, always changing. But I think the difference is that I stopped caring what other people thought of me. I stopped trying to be who others wanted me to be and started being who I actually am. How did you do that? She asked. By losing everything, I said honestly. By hitting rock bottom and realizing that the only way out was to stand up. By understanding that the opinions of others do not define my worth. Only I can do that. She nodded slowly. I want to get there. I want to be that confident in myself. You will, I said. But it takes time. And it takes being willing to be uncomfortable, to confront the parts of yourself you do not like. I am trying, she said. Some days are easier than others. That is all any of us can do, I said. Try. One Saturday morning, about 4 months after I had moved back in, Veronica came to me with an idea. She had been volunteering at the local community center, and they were looking for people to teach classes. She wondered if I would be interested in teaching a sewing class with her. With you? I asked, surprised. Yes, she said. I think it would be good for us, and I think a lot of people would benefit from learning this skill. Plus, I am not good enough to teach on my own yet. I need you. I thought about it. The idea of teaching appealed to me. I had always enjoyed sharing my knowledge, helping others learn, and doing it with Veronica felt like a symbol of how far we had come, of the relationship we were building. I would love to, I said. Really? Her face lit up. Really? I said. We started teaching the class 2 weeks later. It was held every Saturday morning, and we had a small but enthusiastic group of students. There were young mothers who wanted to mend their children's clothes, college students interested in sustainable fashion, older women like me who wanted to reconnect with a skill they had once known. The diversity of our students was beautiful, and watching them learn, watching them create, brought me so much joy. Veronica was nervous during our first class. She kept looking to me for approval, for guidance. but as the weeks went on, she grew more confident. She developed her own teaching style, her own way of explaining things, and I was proud of her. She was becoming the person she wanted to be, piece by piece, stitch by stitch. One afternoon, a few months after I had moved back in, Veronica and I were sitting in the living room. She was practicing her sewing, and I was watching her work. "You know," she said, not looking up from her stitching, "I have been thinking a lot about what you said, about needing to see that I mean it." I nodded, waiting for her to continue. "I realize now that I have been so focused on what I thought I should be that I forgot to just be myself. I thought I had to be perfect, and when I could not be, I took it out on you. That was not fair." "No," I said, "it was not." "I want you to know that I am working on it," she said. "I am seeing a therapist now, trying to figure out why I act the way I do. And I am learning that a lot of it comes from my own insecurities, my own fears." "I am glad you are getting help," I said. She looked up at me, her eyes sincere. "Thank you for giving me another chance. I do not deserve it, but I am grateful for it." I smiled. We all deserve a chance to be better. As the months went by, Veronica and I developed a tentative friendship. She started asking me about my life, about the things I had been through. She wanted to know how I had managed to stay strong all those years, how I had kept going when things were so hard. I told her the truth. I said there were days when I wanted to give up, days when I cried myself to sleep because I did not know how I was going to pay the bills or feed my kids, but I kept going because I had to, because my boys needed me. "You are incredible," she said one day. "I do not think I could have done what you did." "You could have," I said. "People are stronger than they think. We do not know what we are capable of until we are tested." She nodded, and I could see her thinking about that. One evening, Thomas pulled me aside. He had been watching Veronica and me interact, and I could see the relief on his face. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For giving her another chance, for not giving up on us." I hugged him. "I did not give up on you because I love you. And I did not give up on her because I think she is trying. But I need you to know something, Thomas." "What is it?" "I need you to understand that I am not going to let anyone treat me like that again. Not her. Not anyone. I spent too many years fighting to be respected, and I am not going back to feeling small." He nodded, his eyes serious. "I understand, Mom. And I promise, if anything like that ever happens again, I will handle it. You should never have to feel that way in my home." "It is not just your home," I said. "It is mine too. And I need to feel safe here." "You will," he said. "I will make sure of it." As time went on, I started to reclaim parts of myself that I had lost. I started sewing again, not just for others, but for myself. I made a quilt, something I had always wanted to do but never had time for. I joined a book club at the local library. I reconnected with old friends. I started living my life again, not just existing in the margins. Veronica noticed the change in me. One day she said, "You seem happier." "I am," I said. "I realized I was letting your opinion of me define who I was. But I am not useless. I never was." She looked ashamed. "I know. And I am sorry I ever made you feel that way." "I appreciate that," I said. "But I also need you to understand something. I do not need your approval to know my worth. I know my worth." She smiled, a genuine smile. "I am glad. And I am learning to know mine too." We were sitting in the backyard, and the sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. "You know," I said, "I think everything that happened, as painful as it was, taught me something important." "What is that?" she asked. "It taught me that I am stronger than I thought. I survived losing my husband. I survived raising 2 boys on my own. I survived being treated like I did not matter. And I am still here. I am still standing." Veronica reached over and squeezed my hand. "You are an inspiration, Margaret. I hope I can be half as strong as you one day." "You will be," I said. "You are already on your way." As I sat there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I thought about everything I had been through. I thought about the nights I cried, the days I doubted myself, the moments I wanted to give up. But I also thought about the strength I had found, the resilience I did not know I had. I thought about the woman I had become, not in spite of my struggles, but because of them. I realized that being called a useless old hag had been one of the most painful moments of my life, but it had also been a turning point. It had forced me to look at myself, to see who I really was. And what I saw was not someone useless or weak. What I saw was a survivor, a fighter, a woman who had been through hell and come out the other side. The next few months were a period of healing and growth. Veronica continued to work on herself, and I could see the changes in her. She was more patient, more kind. She started to let go of the need to be perfect, to control everything. And as she relaxed, our relationship improved. We were not just tolerating each other anymore. We were building something real, something based on mutual respect and understanding. One Saturday morning, Veronica asked me if I would go shopping with her. She said she needed help picking out some new clothes, and she wanted my opinion. I was surprised, but I agreed. We spent the day together, trying on outfits and laughing at some of the ridiculous styles we found. It was the first time I had seen her truly relaxed, truly herself. As we were driving home, she turned to me. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," I said. "How did you do it? How did you keep going when things were so hard?" I thought about her question for a moment. "I kept going because I had to," I said, "but also because I believed that things would get better. I believed that my boys would grow up and have good lives, and that made all the sacrifices worth it." "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "All the things you gave up?" I shook my head. "No, because I did not give anything up. I chose my children. I chose to fight for them. And I would make that choice again in a heartbeat." She nodded, and I could see her absorbing my words. "I think I have been so focused on what I am giving up that I have not appreciated what I have," she said. "I have a good husband, a beautiful home, and now I have you. I should be grateful, not resentful." "We all lose sight of things sometimes," I said. "What matters is that you recognize it and try to change." She smiled. "Thank you for being patient with me. I know I did not deserve it." "We all deserve patience," I said. "We all deserve a chance to grow." As we pulled into the driveway, I felt a sense of contentment I had not felt in a long time. I was not just surviving anymore. I was living, and it felt good. That evening, Thomas came home from work and found Veronica and me in the kitchen making dinner together. He stood in the doorway, watching us with a smile on his face. "This is nice," he said. "What is?" Veronica asked. "Seeing you two like this. Happy. We are trying," I said. "And that is all we can do." He walked over and hugged us both. "I love you both so much. I am so glad we are figuring this out." "Me too," I said. "Me too," Veronica echoed. As we sat down for dinner that night, I looked around the table. I looked at Thomas, the boy I had raised, now a man with his own family. I looked at Veronica, the woman who had hurt me but was now trying to make amends. And I looked at myself, reflected in the window across from me. I saw a woman who had been knocked down but had gotten back up. A woman who had been told she was useless, but knew she was anything but. I realized that my journey was not over. There would be more challenges, more obstacles to overcome. But I was ready for them. I had learned that I was stronger than I ever imagined, that I could survive anything life threw at me. And I had learned that forgiveness, both of others and of myself, was the most powerful tool I had. A few weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Daniel. He wrote that he was proud of me, that he had always admired my strength and resilience. He said that hearing about what I had been through and how I had handled it had inspired him to be a better person, to stand up for himself in his own life. His words brought tears to my eyes. I had always worried that I had not been enough for my boys, that I had failed them in some way. But reading his letter, I realized that I had given them the most important gift I could. I had shown them how to be strong, how to persevere, how to never give up. I wrote him back, telling him how much his words meant to me. I told him that he and Thomas were the reason I had kept going all those years, the reason I had fought so hard. I told him that being their mother was the greatest privilege of my life. As I sealed the envelope and placed it in the mailbox, I felt a sense of closure. I had spent so much of my life looking back, wondering if I had done enough, if I had been good enough. But now I was looking forward. I was thinking about the future, about the possibilities that lay ahead. One afternoon, I was sitting in the backyard, working on my quilt. Veronica came out and sat beside me. "Can I help?" she asked. "Sure," I said, handing her a needle and thread. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. The only sound, the rustling of leaves in the breeze. "You know," she said after a while, "I have been thinking about what you said. About knowing your worth." I nodded, waiting for her to continue. "I think I have been looking for validation in all the wrong places. I have been trying to prove myself to everyone else, but I have never tried to prove myself to me. That is a good realization," I said. She smiled. "I am learning a lot from you, Margaret. I hope you know that." "I am learning from you too," I said. "You have shown me that people can change, that it is never too late to become the person you want to be." She looked at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you for not giving up on me." I reached over and squeezed her hand. We all deserve a second chance. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the yard, I felt a profound sense of peace. I had been through so much, had faced challenges I never thought I could overcome, but I had survived. More than that, I had thrived. I had learned to stand up for myself, to demand respect, to never let anyone make me feel small again. I thought about that day when Veronica had thrown my clothes out the window, when she had called me a useless old hag. I thought about how devastated I had been, how lost I had felt. But I also thought about how that moment had become a catalyst for change. It had forced me to confront who I was, to see my own strength and value. And in doing so, it had transformed not just me, but everyone around me. As I sat there, stitching pieces of fabric together to create something beautiful, I realized that my life was like this quilt. It was made up of many different pieces, some bright and cheerful, some dark and painful. But when you put them all together, they created something whole, something meaningful. Every struggle, every challenge, every moment of pain had shaped me into the woman I was today. And I was proud of that woman. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about everything I had learned. I had learned that strength does not mean never falling down. It means getting back up every time you do. I had learned that forgiveness is not about excusing someone's behavior. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of anger and resentment. And I had learned that you are never too old to start over, to reclaim your life, to demand the respect you deserve. I closed my eyes and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, but I was ready for whatever came next, because I knew who I was. I was Margaret Hayes. I was a mother, a survivor, a fighter. I was not useless. I never had been, and I never would be. As the weeks turned into months, my relationship with Veronica continued to improve. We were not perfect, and there were still moments of tension, but we had built a foundation of honesty and respect, and that made all the difference. We learned to communicate better, to express our feelings without attacking each other. We learned to give each other grace, to understand that we were both works in progress. One day, Veronica surprised me by asking if I would teach a sewing class with her at the local community center. She had been volunteering there, and she thought it would be a great way for us to spend time together while helping others. I agreed, and we started teaching a weekly class to women of all ages. It was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. I loved sharing my knowledge, seeing the pride on someone's face when they completed their first project. And I loved doing it with Veronica, watching her confidence grow as she taught others what I had taught her. During one of our classes, a young woman named Jennifer asked me how I had become so good at sewing. I told her the truth. I said I had learned because I had to, because I could not afford to buy new clothes for my boys. I told her about the late nights, the mistakes, the frustration, but I also told her about the satisfaction of creating something with my own hands, of providing for my family in a way that was both practical and meaningful. "Your story is so inspiring," Jennifer said. "I cannot imagine going through what you went through." "We are all stronger than we think," I said. "Life tests us in different ways, but we always have a choice. We can let our circumstances define us, or we can define ourselves." She nodded, and I could see my words resonating with her. After the class, Veronica and I walked home together. She was quiet, and I could tell she was thinking about something. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. I was just thinking about what you said in class, about defining ourselves instead of letting our circumstances define us. What about it? I think I let my circumstances define me for a long time, she said. I let my job, my stress, my insecurities control who I was. And I hurt people because of it. I hurt you. We all make mistakes, I said. What matters is what we do after. She looked at me, her eyes serious. I want to be better. Not just for you or for Thomas, but for me. I want to be someone I am proud of. You are already on your way, I said. Every day you choose to be kind, to be honest, to work on yourself. You are becoming that person. She smiled, and I could see the determination in her eyes. Thank you, Margaret, for everything. As we walked home, I felt a sense of pride. Not just in myself, but in Veronica too. She had made a mistake, a terrible one. But she had owned it, apologized for it, and worked to change. That took courage, and I respected her for it. When we arrived home, Thomas was in the kitchen making dinner. He looked up and smiled when he saw us. How was class? He asked. Great, Veronica said. We had a full house today. That is wonderful, he said. I am so proud of you both. We all sat down for dinner, and as we ate, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. I was grateful for my family, for the love and support they had shown me. I was grateful for the opportunity to teach, to share my knowledge with others. And I was grateful for the journey I had been on, as difficult as it had been, because it had taught me who I was and what I was capable of. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw the lines on my face, the gray in my hair, the signs of a life well lived. I thought about all the years I had spent worrying about what others thought of me, trying to prove my worth. But I did not need to do that anymore. I knew my worth. I had always known it deep down. I just had to remember it. I climbed into bed and pulled the quilt over me, the one I had made with my own hands. I ran my fingers over the stitches, feeling the texture of the fabric. Each piece represented a part of my life, a memory, a moment. And together they created something beautiful. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about the woman I had been when I first moved into this house. I had been scared, uncertain, diminished. But I was not that woman anymore. I had reclaimed myself, piece by piece. I had stood up for myself, demanded respect, and refused to be treated as less than I was. And in doing so, I had not just changed my own life. I had changed the lives of those around me. The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed and energized. I had a new sense of purpose, a renewed determination to make the most of every day. I got dressed and went downstairs, where Veronica was already in the kitchen making coffee. Good morning, she said, smiling. Good morning, I replied. We sat down together, sipping our coffee and chatting about our plans for the day. It was a simple moment, but it meant everything to me. Because it was a moment of peace, of connection, of mutual respect. And that was all I had ever wanted. As I looked at Veronica, I realized that she was not the enemy I had once thought she was. She was a woman struggling with her own demons, her own insecurities. And by standing up for myself, by refusing to accept her mistreatment, I had forced her to confront those demons. I had given her an opportunity to grow, to become a better person. And she had taken it. Later that day, I received a phone call from Daniel. He said he was planning to visit soon, and he wanted to meet Veronica. He said he had heard so much about her from Thomas, and he was curious to see the woman who had caused his mother so much pain, but was now working to make amends. I would love for you to meet her, I said. I think you will be surprised. I hope so, he said. I want to make sure you are okay, Mom, that you are happy. I am, I said. I really am. When Daniel arrived a few weeks later, I could see the protective look in his eyes as he shook Veronica's hand. He was polite, but reserved. He was watching her, evaluating her, and I could not blame him. He loved me, and he wanted to make sure I was safe. But as the weekend went on, I could see Daniel's attitude toward Veronica soften. He saw how she treated me, how she included me in conversations, how she asked for my opinion. He saw the effort she was making, and he appreciated it. By the time he left, He pulled me aside. She seems like she is really trying, he said. She is, I replied. And I believe her. He nodded. I am glad, Mom. You deserve to be treated with respect. Always. I hugged him tightly. Thank you for always looking out for me. Always, he said. As I watched him drive away, I felt a sense of completeness. My family was intact, stronger than ever. We had been through a storm, but we had come out the other side. And we were better for it. In the months that followed, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. I continued teaching sewing classes with Veronica, spending time with Thomas, talking to Daniel on the phone every week. I made new friends, tried new things, and embraced every opportunity that came my way. I was no longer living in the shadows, no longer making myself small. I was living fully, authentically, unapologetically. One evening, as I was working on a new quilt, Veronica sat down beside me. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Do you think you will ever fully forgive me? I looked at her, considering her question. I have forgiven you, I said. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward without holding on to the anger. It means giving you a chance to prove that you have changed. And you have. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. That means more to me than you know. I reached over and squeezed her hand. We all make mistakes, Veronica. What defines us is how we respond to them. And you have responded with courage and humility. I am proud of you. She wiped her eyes and smiled. I am proud of you too, Margaret. You have taught me so much about strength and resilience. I hope I can be as strong as you one day. You already are, I said. You just have to believe it. As we sat there together working on the quilt, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. I had faced my greatest challenge and come out stronger. I had stood up for myself, demanded respect, and refused to be diminished. And in doing so, I had not just changed my own life. I had changed the lives of everyone around me. I realized then that my story was not about being a victim. It was about being a survivor. It was about finding strength in the darkest moments, about refusing to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. It was about knowing your worth, even when others try to make you doubt it. As the sun set and the room grew dark, I put down my sewing and looked around. I looked at the life I had built, the relationships I had nurtured, the strength I had found within myself. And I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with courage and determination. Because I was Margaret Hayes, and I was unstoppable. The journey had been long and difficult, filled with pain and heartache. But it had also been transformative. It had taught me who I truly was, what I was capable of, and what I deserved. It had taught me that age is just a number, that it is never too late to reclaim your life, to stand up for yourself, to demand the respect you deserve. 1 year after that terrible day when Veronica threw my clothes out the window, I found myself sitting in the backyard on a warm summer evening. Thomas was grilling burgers, Veronica was setting the table, and I was finishing up a quilt I had been working on for months. It was a large piece, made from fabrics that represented different parts of my life. There was material from one of my old work uniforms, from clothes my boys had worn as children, from the curtains in my first apartment, from a dress I had sewn for myself years ago. As I stitched the final piece into place, I thought about how much had changed. I thought about the woman I had been a year ago, broken and doubting herself. I thought about the journey I had taken, the hard conversations, the moments of doubt, the small victories. I thought about how I had learned to value myself again, to see my own worth, to demand respect. Veronica came over and sat beside me. That is beautiful, she said, looking at the quilt. Thank you, I said. It is my story, in fabric form. She touched one of the pieces gently. What is this from? That was from my waitress uniform, I said. From the diner where I worked for 10 years. Some of the hardest years of my life, but also some of the most meaningful. I met Linda there. I learned what it meant to work hard, to serve others, to find dignity in labor. And this one? She pointed to a bright yellow piece. That was from a dress I made for myself when I got my first paycheck after my husband died, I said. I had been working 3 jobs, barely sleeping, barely eating. But I wanted something beautiful, something just for me. So I bought this fabric and made a dress. It was my way of telling myself that I still mattered, that I was still worth investing in. Veronica's eyes filled with tears. You are incredible, Margaret. I do not think I have ever told you that properly. But you are. You are one of the strongest, most resilient, most remarkable women I have ever met. I reached over and squeezed her hand. And you are becoming the woman you were meant to be. I see you trying every day. I see you growing. And I am proud of you. Even after everything I put you through. Especially after everything you put me through, I said. Because you did not run from it. You did not make excuses or blame others. You looked at yourself honestly and decided to change. That takes courage. Thomas called us over for dinner, and we sat around the table together. As we ate, we talked about our week, about the sewing class, about Daniel's upcoming visit, about small, everyday things that felt meaningful because we were sharing them. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Not perfect, not without conflict, but genuine and loving and respectful. Later that night, after Veronica and Thomas had gone to bed, I sat in my room with the finished quilt spread across my lap. I ran my fingers over the stitches, feeling the texture of each piece. This quilt was more than just fabric. It was a testament to survival, to resilience, to the refusal to give up. It was proof that broken things could be made whole, that scattered pieces could be brought together to create something beautiful. I thought about all the women who had touched my life. Linda, who had given me a safe place when I had nowhere else to go. My mother, who had taught me the value of hard work even though she was gone now. The women in my sewing class, each with their own stories, their own struggles, their own strength. And Veronica, who had hurt me deeply but was now working to heal that hurt. I realized that my story was not just about me. It was about all of us. It was about the women who are told they are too old, too weak, too much of a burden. It was about the women who shrink themselves to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold them. It was about the women who find their voices, who stand up, who refuse to be diminished. And it was about the women who support each other, who lift each other up, who create communities of strength and resilience. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a walk. The neighborhood was quiet, the sun just beginning to rise. As I walked, I thought about where I had been and where I was going. I thought about the dreams I had given up when I became a widow, when survival became more important than ambition. I thought about the things I still wanted to do, the places I still wanted to see, the person I still wanted to become. When I returned home, Veronica was in the kitchen making coffee. She smiled when she saw me. "Good morning," she said. "You are up early." "I could not sleep," I said. "Too many thoughts." "Good thoughts or bad thoughts?" "Both," I said. "I have been thinking about everything that has happened this past year, about how much has changed. For the better, I hope," she said, handing me a cup of coffee. "Definitely for the better," I said. "But I have also been thinking about what comes next, about what I want to do with the rest of my life." "What do you want to do?" "I am not sure yet," I said. "But I know I do not want to just exist. I want to live. I want to try new things, take risks, make the most of whatever time I have left." "That is beautiful," she said, "and I want to support you in that. Whatever you decide to do, I am here for you." "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." Over the next few months, I started exploring new possibilities. I joined a book club at the library and discovered a love for contemporary fiction. I started taking walks every morning, something I had never made time for before. I even tried yoga, something I thought I was too old for, and found that I actually enjoyed it. I was rediscovering myself, piece by piece, finding out who Margaret Hayes was beyond mother, beyond widow, beyond survivor. One afternoon, a woman named Jennifer from our sewing class approached me after class. She was in her early 30s, a single mother working 2 jobs to support her daughter. She reminded me so much of myself at that age. "Margaret, can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course," I said. "How did you do it? How did you raise 2 kids on your own and still manage to be so strong?" I sat down beside her. "I did not feel strong most of the time," I admitted. "I felt scared and overwhelmed and completely out of my depth. But I did it because I had to. Because my boys needed me. And because I refused to let circumstances define who I was." "I feel like I am drowning," she said, her voice breaking. "I work all the time. I am exhausted. and I still feel like I am failing my daughter. You are not failing, I said firmly. You are doing the best you can with what you have, and that is all anyone can ask of you. But I want you to remember something. You have to take care of yourself too. You cannot pour from an empty cup. But there is no time, she said. Between work and taking care of my daughter, there is nothing left for me. Then you make time, I said. Even if it is just 10 minutes a day. Even if it is just sitting in your car before you go inside, listening to music you love. You have to find moments for yourself, or you will lose yourself completely. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Thank you. I needed to hear that. After she left, I thought about my own advice. I thought about all the years I had lost myself in taking care of others, in surviving, in just getting through each day. I thought about how close I had come to disappearing completely in Veronica's house, to accepting that I was nothing more than a burden. But I had not disappeared. I had fought back. I had reclaimed myself. And now I was helping others do the same. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, Thomas knocked on my door. Come in, I said. He walked in and sat on the edge of my bed. I just wanted to tell you something, he said. What is it? I am proud of you, Mom. I am proud of how you handled everything that happened. I am proud of the relationship you have built with Veronica, and I am proud of the way you have rebuilt your life. You inspire me. You inspire me too, I said. You could have taken the easy way out. You could have ignored what was happening or made excuses for Veronica, but you did not. You stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. That takes real character. I learned that from you, he said. You taught me that family is not just about blood. It is about showing up for the people you love, about protecting them, about making sure they know they matter. I hugged him tightly. I love you, Thomas, and I am so grateful for you. I love you too, Mom, he said. As I climbed into bed that night, I felt a profound sense of peace. I had been through hell and come out the other side. I had been broken and had put myself back together. I had been told I was useless and had proven that I was anything but. And in the process, I had not just saved myself. I had helped save my family. As I drifted off to sleep, I smiled, because I knew that my story was far from over. There were still adventures to be had, lessons to be learned, battles to be fought. But I was ready. I had always been ready. And I always would be.